prefer to speak to them.
Okay, so when do you come to the States? After you go to the
I
speaking
come to
tour?
the States after I've been traveling abroad. I come to New York.
What year do you surface at UCLA?
I surfaced at UCLA in 1975.
1974. 74, 75, and as a student, or
As a student.
What were you studying?
I was studying international relations.
You're one young man, way back when, in a big Western university institution that doesn't know anything about what's going on in your country.
That's what is called African Education Project.
You started the African Education Project.
I said the African education is going to be the vehicle that is going to educate people about Africa.
And so you were able to attract other students.
I attract the students who were very aware of what was going on. We met on Wednesday.
Okay.
On Friday, we meet just for a demonstration.
I see.
Go to the demonstration. Because we have to do practice. We believe in praxis. Theory has to have praxis.
Mm-hmm.
And praxis was a demonstration for us to get involved, because education, as the people get involved, they get more educated. Because first we deal with the theory part, and then getting involved by praxis.
Yes.
Training, and that's what training.
Paulo Freire stuff.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then initially there were 4 or 5 students involved in the
4 or 5 students.
Yeah. Well, the Friday demonstrations, where were they? Were they on campus?
Bank of America.
Bank of
America.
In Westwood?
Yeah, which was in Westwood.
Yes.
It was a big Bank of America in Westwood.
You wanted to get the customers.
Yeah.
And you give them flyers.
Give them flyers and talk to them. You say Bank of America, Bank of South Africa.
That's the same thing.
Yeah. We say Bank of America, because we used to tell them the bank is responsible is funding the bullets that the children are being killed in South Africa. Once we get a groundswell, we're going to make changes.
Now, and as you had mentioned earlier, from 5 students, you started to get more students involved.
Yeah.
Right?
More students began to join us on Saturday.
How big did some of these demonstrations, these Friday afternoon demonstrations,
they became as big as you can say anything. As we started with 5 students, it became 10, 20, 30, 40, became 100, 200, 300. So it became a problem for the traffic at Westwood.
How did you make the connection for the average mainstream American student to get involved in this?
I remember what we used to do. When we used to talk about, we used to go to campus, because people would ask me, says, how could you say our government does all these things?
Yeah.
How is it possible? The government wouldn't do that.
Right.
I said, wait a minute, you don't know what your government is doing. That means you are not conscious about what you're responsible for, because the Africans are going to hold you responsible for what you're doing, no students.
When did you make the shift to the ASUCLA? You had to create a resolution to make a presentation then, right, or something? There must have been some mechanism to get the students to make that decision.
We're the students. Once we got the students to accept the fact that there's a problem in South Africa. It's part of the ASUCLA, GSA Graduate Student Association, which is part of the Board of Control. They saw us as crazy people. But fortunately, there was a guy called Sam Law.
Sam Law listened.
When Sam Law came into power, he was wide open. Yes, we just launched the biggest campaign. He was the most kindest person you'll ever meet in your life.
He had empathy.
He had so much enormous empathy. He was the most compassionate individual I've ever met to talk about it. From him, we took off, and then we formed the Steve Biko Fellowship Foundation after him.
Wow. Okay, so
he's the one who introduced me to the Chancellor and took me with him to the Chancellor's meeting to say, this is the person who's going to have to give you this information. Listen to him.
So this is also a story about interconnectedness and about how important it is to have people inside the system who are willing to listen with high empathy,
of course,
and find those connections and bring you to the table. So Sam Law then helps the students divest. This is like 1979, 1980.
Once we divested the students, Sam Law set the stage for students to divest.
Yeah.
And then we had the biggest rally on campus, which was filmed by so many helicopters. Helicopters were buzzing to UCLA because the rally was filling the whole, what do you call it, the Schomburg Hall quad.
Wow, yeah.
And then Schomburg quad, and then the architecture structure. It was filled with
This was
students.
1980. Okay, so how did that strategy? How did that roll out? How did you guys plan?
But once we completed the struggle for the students and we got the students on our side, now it was easy for us to go back to the university now and say, now we want the university to, I think that time was $1.9 billion
That's a lot of
the
money.
UC system. That's invested in South Africa. And we told them, we gotta divest it. And they brought Tutu on campus to talk about no divestment will hurt black people and all that stuff. We say, we're not listening to him. He came to see me. He came to try to see me in my office. I was in Dot Hall at that time, and I refused to see him.
So this you're talking about Bishop Tutu was brought in by the UC
But
region
the UC region
to defend the status
to
quo.
defend the status quo.
Yeah.
To say divestment is going to hurt more black people than it hurts. It hurts the system or the white people in South Africa. Because
And how did you counter that?
I countered by saying that, listen, everything that the South African is benefiting from this for investment is benefiting all the white people in South Africa. Because what is black people doing in South Africa? They only work for the system, and the system don't pay them that well.
Now,
So,
Tutu, I mean, he ended up winning the Nobel Peace Prize.
after he came back after he went to South Africa, and the people in South Africa, they scolded him for not coming. He came back again, second time at UCLA, he was for divestment then.
And by then, you had the momentum.
We were moving so fast that he just joined the whole team, the whole momentum.
Now, why is the UC divestment, why was that so important to what happened eventually in Africa?
Because it set the stage. Because once South Africa, once the 1.9 billion was beginning to come out of South Africa, because once the university accepted the investment, that means there was $1.9 billion worth that's not going to go to South Africa no more. But what kind of change was going to be very tough thing? Because in 88, 89, they began to talk about Mandela is going to be released.
And Mandela's release in 90,
Right.
things, and then we know history as it unfolded.
Right.
We just captured the story. It's awesome. Why does it matter? Why should Americans be concerned about what happens in Africa?
Because as Africa is the cradle of all civilization, so they should be concerned, because where you started, you can end up after a long time. That's where the whole thing started. The whole cradle of the whole human life began in Africa.
That's where man started.
That's where man began. So the whole human cradle began in Africa. They should worry about where they come from. They should be concerned. Should petrify them. Africa is in this state of this status and all that stuff. They should be much more concerned. If they're not concerned, then we're just playing with history. They say history repeats itself to those who don't know it, and when it does, it becomes dangerous.
One more question. That's
Okay, go ahead.
powerful, but one more question.
Okay.
What's your message to squeal kids who are going to be hearing your voice and I'm sure they'll be as awestruck as I am right now, but what's your message to them? What should they take from you? What's your message to these young people?
That compassion and generosity and self-generosity is the cornerstone of their development in life. That without compassion and understanding of loving themselves, through the loving themselves, they love life and love others. It's not going to make a difference in life if they don't do that. That means they have to understand that life is a continuous struggle. When you live for yourself, you live in vain. And if you live for others, you live forever.
Very, very nice. Any in there? What a great way to end the interview.
No.